We just up in Telluride, so that was quite a difference, beautiful. Quite a shock when you're coming from Telluride to New York. It's extreme.
What is Clint Eastwood?
He built his empire on silence, efficiency, and a stare that could freeze time. For over 6 decades, Clint Eastwood has ruled Hollywood not with scandal or spectacle, but with quiet power. But behind the scenes, there's a secret list, a blacklist. No announcements, no press releases, just 5 actors who crossed an invisible line and were never invited back. Some showed up late, others pushed too hard. One never even worked with him, but still made the top of the list. These aren't no names. These are Hollywood giants, Oscar winners, box office legends. And Clint? He cut them off like they never existed. Today, we reveal the 5 stars who found out the hard way. In Clint Eastwood's world, you only get one shot. Clint Eastwood doesn't need to raise his voice to command a room. He never has. On his film sets, there are no screaming matches, no dramatic meltdowns, and no drawn-out debates about character arcs. Just silence, precision, and movement, like a watch mechanism clicking into place. Every person has a role. Every moment has a purpose. And if you're not ready, you're already out. Over the decades, Eastwood has earned a reputation for being one of the most efficient directors in the business. He's not interested in overthinking a scene or trying 20 different emotional angles. For Clint, there's a simple truth. If you've done your work, the first take is all you need. Anything after that, he believes, is chasing shadows. He shows up before dawn. He knows every beat of the script. He doesn't waste time with rehearsals unless they're absolutely necessary. His direction is often delivered in barely a whisper, short, clear, and final. "Let's go again" is a phrase he avoids. So is "let's try something new." He doesn't believe in second guesses. He believes in instinct. This philosophy isn't just about control, it's about respect. For the crew's time, for the story, and for the craft of filmmaking itself. Eastwood has spent a lifetime refining a style that strips away the fluff, the ego, and the indulgence. He believes in trusting the gut, capturing lightning in a bottle and moving forward. But that discipline comes at a cost for those who can't adapt to it. Actors who thrive on long rehearsals, who need emotional prep, or who think every line deserves a roundtable discussion. They don't last long in Clint's world. He doesn't argue with them. He doesn't fire them on the spot. He just finishes the job and never calls them again. It's not personal, it's professional, cold, quiet, and final. There's no official list, no public feud, no headline scandal, but in Hollywood, the pattern became clear. Some actors, no matter how famous or talented, only ever worked with Clint once. And if you ask the people who know him best, it wasn't a coincidence. It was a decision. A quiet blacklisting based not on performance, but on principle. One longtime assistant director, who's been on more than a dozen Eastwood films, put it simply. If Clint thinks you waste time, or worse, disrespect the work, you're done. Forever. He won't yell. He won't scold. He'll just never pick up the phone again. So who made the mistake of stepping into Clint's world without following his rules? Who showed up late, asked too many questions, or turned one-take scenes into multi-hour ordeals? The answers might surprise you. Because it was the first name on Clint Eastwood's secret blacklist? Is a Hollywood legend whose downfall began with a bottle and ended with Clint walking off set in silence. Richard Burton was one of the most celebrated actors of his generation. A classically trained titan with a booming voice and a stare that could cut glass. He was already a legend when he starred alongside Clint Eastwood in the 1968 World War II thriller, Where Eagles Dare. On paper, it was a powerhouse pairing, But behind the scenes, it became a masterclass in mutual disdain. Burton brought charisma and gravitas. Eastwood brought discipline and silence. Their methods couldn't have been more different, and it showed. While Eastwood arrived on set before sunrise, script memorized, focused, and ready, Burton often stumbled in just before call time, sometimes late, often hungover, and, according to crew members, occasionally still drunk from the night before. One camera operator remembered it vividly. Clint would just stand there, arms folded, watching Burton fumble through lines he clearly hadn't rehearsed. No yelling, no sighing, just this look of complete disappointment. You could feel the respect draining away. The breaking point came during a pivotal scene in the film. A long monologue where Burton's character reveals a major twist in the mission. The kind of scene that should have cemented his reputation. Instead, it shattered his standing with Eastwood. Take after take dragged on. 10 became 15, then 20. And still, Burton wasn't getting it right. Eastwood didn't complain. He didn't interfere. He simply stepped away from the camera and watched in silence. Someone asked him if he was upset, recalled a production assistant. He just said, "I'm getting paid by the picture, not by the hour." That was it. But everyone knew he was done with Burton. But it wasn't just the drinking or the delays. What truly sealed Burton's fate was his attitude. On set, he reportedly dismissed the film as just a paycheck, making jokes about the script, the genre, and even his own role, sometimes within earshot of the crew. For Eastwood, who treats every film with quiet seriousness, no matter the subject, that was the ultimate insult. Years later, when asked about working with Burton, Eastwood didn't explode or criticize. He just offered 3 words that said it all. Talented guy. Wasted talent. That silence was louder than any outburst. Burton never worked with Clint Eastwood again. Never got another offer. Never heard from him once the film wrapped. A legendary actor, quietly locked out, not because of one bad day, but because he broke the one rule Eastwood never forgives. He wasted time. But Burton wasn't the only one. The next name on Eastwood's list? A tragic icon whose emotional instability nearly brought a musical to a standstill. By the late 1960s, Jean Seberg was more than just an actress. She was a cultural symbol. The face of the French New Wave. A muse for Godard. But when she was cast opposite Clint Eastwood in the 1969 musical Paint Your Wagon, what started as a bold experiment turned into one of the most frustrating projects of Eastwood's career. From the beginning, Eastwood was out of his element. Singing on camera, dancing in choreographed numbers, none of it fit his usual minimalist style. But he approached it the only way he knew how, with preparation, focus, and grit. Seberg, on the other hand, brought something very different to the set. According to multiple crew members, Seberg frequently arrived late, appeared emotionally distracted, and often broke down during rehearsals. Simple scenes became complicated. Blocking had to be redone. Choreography stalled. One choreographer remembered, Clint would be standing there, ready to shoot. Jean would be in her trailer, having a crisis. Every day felt like a waiting game. What pushed Clint over the edge wasn't just the delays. It was Seberg's unpredictable behavior once the cameras were rolling. During romantic scenes, she'd stop mid-line to question the script, ask for changes, or challenge the dialogue. She wanted more emotional depth. Clint wanted her to stay on script and hit her mark. There was this simple walking scene, recalled a script supervisor. All she had to do was deliver a few lines. Instead, she kept interrupting to ask about her character's motivation. By the 5th take, Clint just walked away. No yelling, Just done. Still, Clint stayed professional. He finished the film and powered through the chaos. But the final straw came after the cameras stopped. When Paint Your Wagon underperformed at the box office, Seberg gave several interviews implying that Clint's wooden acting and lack of musical skill had dragged the film down. For someone as private and loyal as Eastwood, that kind of public criticism crossed a line. He didn't retaliate. He didn't respond. But those who knew him say that from that moment on, her name was off the list, permanently. "It's not their fault," Eastwood reportedly said, "but it's not something I need to deal with twice." Jean Seberg's life ended tragically, but even before then, her Hollywood days were largely behind her. As for Eastwood, he never spoke her name again. But Seberg's emotional volatility wasn't the worst of it, because the next actor on Clint's blacklist didn't just break character, he refused to leave it. In 1993's In the Line of Fire, Clint Eastwood shared the screen with one of the most intense actors of his era, Tommy Lee Jones. On paper, it was a perfect matchup. Two strong, stoic performers with decades of experience. But what happened on set turned that dream pairing into a quiet nightmare. The tension didn't explode. It simmered. Jones, known for his method intensity and sharp tongue, brought a dominating energy to the role. According to multiple crew members, he had a tendency to steal focus, even when the script didn't call for it. One director of photography put it this way: "Tommy doesn't just enter a scene, he takes it over," and that clashed hard with Clint's collaborative mindset. For Eastwood, every scene is about balance, about listening as much as delivering. But Jones wasn't listening. He was pushing. Hard. During heated exchanges between their characters, Jones would keep glaring, growling, and staying in character even after the director yelled, "Cut." "He wouldn't break," said a sound technician. "He'd stare Clint down, like the scene was still going. Clint would just look at him, then walk away." It wasn't anger. It was rejection. Eastwood doesn't blur the line between performance and reality. He doesn't believe in staying in character between takes. For him, filmmaking is a job. You do the work, then you step out of it. Tommy Lee's intense style felt like unnecessary theater. Things got worse when the two disagreed over a pivotal scene. Jones pushed for a more aggressive take. Eastwood, ever the minimalist, wanted it grounded. Jones kept pushing, kept asking for another go, kept questioning direction. Clint gave him the space, briefly. Then he walked away. After the film wrapped, Eastwood quietly made a decision. Never again. "Tommy's got his way of working," he said years later. "I've got mine. Some approaches should stay different." It wasn't a feud. It was a wall, built on creative incompatibility. And like others before him, Jones never got a second invitation. But Eastwood's patience would be tested even more by one of the biggest stars of the 21st century. A talent so focused on perfection, it left Clint utterly drained. When Clint Eastwood cast Leonardo DiCaprio as the lead in J. Edgar, 2011, it seemed like a masterstroke. One of the most respected directors of all time, working with one of the most celebrated actors of a generation. On the surface, there was mutual respect. But behind the camera, the collaboration became a slow, quiet unraveling. A mismatch of method and mindset that Clint vowed never to repeat. DiCaprio is known for his commitment. He dives deep into every role, historical research, emotional journaling, and endless scene discussions. He's a perfectionist, through and through. But for Eastwood, that kind of preparation doesn't impress. It irritates. Leo came in with binders of research, recalled a script supervisor. He had questions about every line, every look, every pause. Clint's direction? Say the line, mean it, move on. It was like watching two languages try to communicate. The clash didn't come from arrogance. It came from a process. DiCaprio wanted multiple takes to explore nuance. Eastwood wanted the raw, unfiltered emotion of the first one. During one emotionally heavy scene, a breakdown moment that could define the entire film, Leo nailed it on the first try. Everyone felt it. It was electric. And then he asked for another take. Then another. And another. By the sixth take, said a camera operator, Clint wasn't even watching the monitor. He was standing off to the side drinking coffee, just waiting for it to be over. You could see it on his face. This wasn't filmmaking anymore. This was overprocessing. What pushed DiCaprio high on Eastwood's list wasn't lack of talent. Clint reportedly thought Leo gave a brilliant performance. But the actor's repeated need for safety, deeper dives, and endless discussion felt like a lack of trust. And for Clint, that's the ultimate insult. He believes in instinct, in truth, in the moment, in trusting the process without breaking it apart in search of something better. DiCaprio's need to control the performance, to squeeze every drop out of each scene, felt like fear masquerading as perfectionism. Clint said something after wrap I'll never forget, recalled a producer. Some people want to climb the mountain. Others want to measure it, map it, and write poetry about it. I just want to get to the top and enjoy the view. Everyone knew exactly who he meant. When Eastwood began casting his next few films, DiCaprio's name, despite his star power, was never even discussed. Roles that seemed tailor-made for him went to others. When casting directors asked, Clint would simply shake his head and say, "Great actor. Not for me." No drama, no fallout. Just a quiet door closing forever. But the #1 person on Clint's blacklist? She never even worked with him, and still managed to become his ultimate creative opposite, and his most enduring grudge. She never acted beside him. She never stood on his set. And yet, no name on Clint Eastwood's silent blacklist carries more weight or more tension than Barbra Streisand. Their feud wasn't built on an on-set meltdown or a clashing scene. It wasn't one explosive argument. It was philosophical. Two towering icons with completely opposite visions of what it means to make a film. And for Clint, Streisand came to represent everything he quietly loathes about the industry. It started in the early 80s, when both Eastwood and Streisand were carving out reputations as serious actor-directors. Clint, efficient, instinctual, minimal. Barbra, perfectionist, exacting, famously meticulous. She would spend hours adjusting lighting, camera angles, and line readings, reshooting scenes dozens of times for the smallest detail. Clint's verdict? That wasn't directing. That was micromanaging art into submission. He'd finish an entire film, said a producer who worked with both, in the time it took Barbra to shoot one major scene. And that used to drive him insane. He saw it as a kind of filmmaking paralysis, where nothing ever felt done. The tension simmered under the surface until it burst during the 1992 awards season. Streisand's The Prince of Tides was nominated for multiple Oscars, but she was passed over for Best Director. When the press pointed to sexism, Clint reportedly made private comments suggesting the real problem wasn't her gender, but her method. He allegedly said, "Maybe if she made decisions faster, she'd have more than 3 films in 15 years." That remark passed quietly through industry circles, lit the fuse. Streisand reportedly responded by questioning the emotional depth of Eastwood's work, claiming his speed came at the expense of subtlety and soul. To Clint, who prides himself on capturing authenticity in the moment, that wasn't just criticism. That was a line crossed. But it didn't end there. Streisand had once been attached to direct and possibly star in the film adaptation of The Bridges of Madison County. When she dropped out, Clint took over the project and completely reshaped it. Gone were the elaborate backstories and emotional flourishes. Clint stripped the story to its core. A quiet, restrained love story, told with raw simplicity. The result? Critical acclaim, box office success, and an Oscar nomination for Meryl Streep. For those close to Eastwood, it was more than just a win. It was a statement. He wasn't just making a movie, said the screenwriter. He was answering Streisand, proving that less isn't just more, it's better. Since then, the two have remained at arm's length. No open hostility, no collaborations, just a cold, mutual understanding that their approaches will never align. And in Clint's world, that's enough to earn a permanent spot on the blacklist. But Eastwood's silent grudge against Streisand isn't just about two filmmakers clashing. It's a window into the core of his creative soul. And the final section reveals what this list truly says about the man behind the stare. Clint Eastwood never needed to cancel anyone. He never had to shout, slam doors, or air grievances in public. He just walked away. Quietly. Permanently. And for the actors left behind, the silence spoke louder than any headline ever could. What makes this blacklist so compelling isn't just the names on it, but what those names represent. Each one clashed with Eastwood not because they lacked talent, but because they broke the code he's lived by for over 60 years. Be prepared. Trust your instincts. Respect the process. Don't waste time. To Clint, filmmaking is sacred. A job done with precision, purpose, and gut-level truth. And when someone disrupts that rhythm, whether with chaos, ego, or obsessive perfectionism, they're not just disagreeing with his style. They're threatening the very foundation of his art. DiCaprio brought too much calculation. Seberg, too much instability. Jones, too much intensity. Burton, too little respect. And Streisand? She represented the kind of control Clint sees as the enemy of real creativity. And yet, through it all, Eastwood remains a ghost in the room. Never naming names, never waging war, just quietly choosing never to look back. If you break Clint's trust, one longtime collaborator said, he doesn't make a scene, he makes a decision. And that's that. In a town built on second chances, Eastwood's refusal to bend has made him both respected and feared. But more than anything, it's made him unchanged. Even now, in his 90s, he still works the same way. Same pace, same standards, same silence. And maybe that's the real story behind the blacklist. Not just who's on it, but what it says about the man keeping it. Clint Eastwood doesn't chase the spotlight. He doesn't need approval. He makes his movies his way. And if you can't keep up, you're gone. No warning, no grudge, just gone.